McNew. Please join me in welcoming my co-host, Steve Akeley, along with our special guests, Bob, Aaron, and Carrie Goldstein of Goldstone Mill.
Hey, gang, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, this is cool. So we are really looking forward to learning. I mean, this group is really into every part of bourbon. We're talking about the people of bourbon, the history, production, the raw ingredients. They want to know a little bit about everything. So that's cool with what we've got going on. And you guys have obviously a very important component of that. We're going to talk all about your company in just a second, if you don't mind. Though we'd like to know a little bit about our guests on a personal basis. So nothing focused on the business, because we're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about the history and how the business got started and all that kind of stuff. We'll do that in just a little bit, though. For right now, if you don't mind, if each of the three of you could tell us a little bit about yourselves on a personal basis. Aaron, we'll start with you, because since you're by yourself there.
Sure. Hi, I'm Erin Goldstein. Let's see. I've held a bunch of marketing positions in my life. I seem to keep finding my way back into marketing of some way, shape, or form. Right now, a lot of social media, some content and email. I dabble in some graphic design from time and again, although I think Carrie is probably better at that than me, at least technologically. Mm-hmm. I just became a yoga teacher last year, which has been pretty great. So I've been quickly learning all of these fields of online learning as I try to transition and keep my classes going for my own sanity during this crazy time.
Okay. Are you looking for any sort of internship with a podcasting company?
Yeah.
Because all these skills you just talked about,
it's like a new job here.
We need every one of these, but it's an internship.
Add on another job.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I think you got one more in you. I think you could do one more. So that's cool. All right. Well, good seeing you again. And Carrie, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm Carrie Goldstein. I co-own Goldstone Mill with Aaron. Besides for doing that, I also have a photography business, so busy with that on the side, and I am a mom of 2 little ones, and yeah, they keep me on my toes for most of the time.
I'll keep you busy, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm busy.
All right, Bob, let's hear about you.
I basically do sales and talked with different people on their distilling issues and try to work through them and make them, give them some products that they can work with. And it's been quite interesting to hear the different distilling issues that people have. And as far as the grains and the malts and, how to make them all work together. And it's been quite interesting.
No, you are one of the world's most interesting guys. So yeah, we'll get more into that. We're doing a lot of filming stuff now. Matter of fact, we have a scripted TV show we're doing. We got to have a character for you in that thing. You got to be in there.
Oh, that would be great.
I mean, come on,
man. I dress up.
Just like you are, man. It's perfect. It's perfect. We can definitely use you. So that'll be good.
Sam Elliott not available?
Exactly.
Oh man, if we did like a real movie, Sam Elliott would be perfect for him.
I better color my hair for that one.
No. That's perfect as it is. So yeah, we do have a slight connection to Sam Elliott now. So what is it? Distillery? What is it? 281, the one that's
291 out of Colorado.
291, yes. That guy's who owns that, his mom is best friends with Sam Elliott. And I was like, when you go see him, just take a recorder and get some you're listening to.
I'd love to meet that guy.
I know. He's cool.
Stand-in for all his films.
No.
Right. Yeah, you could do that, Bob. Stand-in's a good gig.
I could stand in, but I'm just like, I'd love to meet him in general.
Yeah. And you've got an interesting hobby as well, right? When you go hunting, you're not just going out just into the woods locally there and looking for deer. You do a little bit bigger scale than that, right?
Oh yeah, I'd take the whole ball of wax. Is when I go to Colorado, I go up in the mountains for 10 to 12 days, depending on what it takes to just enjoy it. But we take the camp, everything up there, and then we stay up there. I mean, you just live there, period. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. We're hunting elk, mule deer, depending on what tags we have. But it's a whole new story because I usually go out in September and clean out the trail going up there because all the blowdowns and stuff like that. It usually takes 2 to 3 days to get it all cleaned out. And then I'll go back out in October, third week of October, and hunt till the end of the month, almost Halloween, before I get back.
Wow. That's
Really?
cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's I got 3 horses. I drag them out there, and I got all my gear. I take everything up. Stay in a teepee.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stove.
Just adds to your world's most interesting man.
Pretty happy.
You're building a resume now, Bob. So yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
So let's talk a little bit about the business, and let's just talk about milling in general. You weren't born into this business, so you've got an interesting story how you got into it, but you've been doing it a long time. So tell us about that. How did you get started?
I'm married. I was in the car wash business. Actually, I got out of high school. We just didn't, just didn't want to stay on the farm because I was raised on a dairy farm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 24/7 pretty much. So got into the car wash business after school with another friend. Pretty much had, a small little car wash and gas station type thing. And before we were over with, we ended up owning all the gas station or all the car washes, in the small town we're in.
Right.
So basically we, just spent the money and got, 2 operations going and pretty much kept everything busy, sold that, went into, in the meantime, met my wife. Her father was a miller in small town and got interested in that because, car washes were just so much brain knowledge involved in that, basically,
right.
because you had to have customer service and clean facilities and, just basically everything working. So that kind of bored me. But when I got in the milling part of the thing, it was kind of interesting because there was a whole nother structure involved. And basically did that for 21 years and retired from that and started, selling, what do you want to call it? Just online, not online as much as, across the grocery stores and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did for a while. And last couple of years, we just pretty much quit that and went into just distilling and, milling operations, which is more fun,
Right.
in my opinion, because it's just so much easier to deal with the individual distillers when they have a problem, because it's interesting to see the, their distilling issues, as far as their different distilling processes and working with them to get exactly what they need. So it's been quite interesting. And in the milling operation, when I was there 21 years, I mean, I did get to go to a Swiss milling school and, just different things, but it applies in some respects, but the distilling is a whole nother animal just in itself. I mean, it's amazing how much difference there is between just regular flour milling for like store, Kroger's and people like that want stores. It's a whole lot different to build, to make flour for like let's just say a truck is 50,000 pounds of flour. It's pretty easy to make that product, but try to make the product for a distiller that just uses like 800, 300, 200, 100 pounds per blend, for each pot still or still process. I mean, it's quite interesting, but it's a lot of fun in some respects because it gives you another perspective of what it takes to make a buck in this industry and to be different and to be
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Frozen.
He'll come back.
Just got new Wi-Fi at the house.
No, if it's storming there like it is here, like I expect my whole electricity to get knocked out here soon.
No, I'm
Might get
kinda
knocked out. Yeah. Aaron, you want to pick that up?
I mean, I think where he was going there, certainly we're juggling a lot of different details because every
Mhm.
distiller, if they know their equipment well and they've had time to experiment with, fine grind, coarse grind, the blends, whether they can do it there or we do it for them. We keep a lot of details either on paper or in our heads
Right.
about what people like and what they need for their next order. And I just got a text from Carrie, said the power went out. Hopefully their generator.
Okay. We'll keep going with you here. So
Yeah. And of course, doing 50,000 pounds in a tanker truck is different from getting the perfect blend in each. Super
yeah, because
stack.
each grain, and we'll kind of get into more of those details as we talk more about that. But each grain might need a different milling. Some might be super fine. If I don't, I don't know all the screens and all how that stuff works. But yeah, you guys can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Your dad's very humble and he never likes to talk too much about his time, but he literally did like every job in a mill, right? I mean, he's told me like when he started, he was like shoveling out pits. Literally.
Yeah, he started at the bottom. I did that job for a little bit where I had to vacuum and shovel anytime there was a spill. I'm like, that was my summer job, my very first.
Right.
Working in the mill, clearing out flour, because anytime there's a clog in a pipe, they just open all the doors and let it all fall out and move along where we worked.
Right.
Yeah, he worked his way up into the actual milling and maintenance. I mean, the amount of maintenance information he has in his head is just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty sure he has patents on different machinery pieces and things made up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, your dad, he's so humble and the same thing. I mean, he worked in the mill 21 years and then selling, which, he sold a well-known consumer packaged goods that were related to, in the milling business. So he, that's an unbelievable component too. But when that was all done, so time in the mill, then selling the packaged goods, was he just looking to retire? And then you and your sister, Carrie, talked him into coming back? Or did you guys talk like, hey, we should still do something, but we'll focus on distilleries? How does the beginning formations of your company come back around, the company you've got today with your sister?
Well, I don't think Dad will ever retire.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to work until you drop dead, I think. Right.
Well, we had a power outage, so you'll know what's going on.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Oh.
They're back. They can speak for themselves a little bit now.
So we were just talking kind of the next question that we were on, and all three, I'd like all three of you can weigh in on this one. It's after working in the mill, then selling consumer packaged goods, and then starting this new business. How did it come about? Did the three of you talk about this together? Bob, you just didn't want to retire and you're like, let's do something else. How does the beginning of your new company, Goldstone Mill, get started?
Well, we were already selling to distilleries, sort of a smaller side of the business. Mm-hmm. And we just saw that there was a lot of opportunity there. And we really liked working with those customers. We really like the products they make. And we thought that focusing on this particular piece of this business, we could really go down the rabbit hole and see how big we could grow. What do you think, Carrie?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was after the retirement. It was sort of like, he has all this knowledge,
right,
and passion for this industry. And why should that just be, put to waste in retirement? Sorry, Dad. So it was sort of like a push, definitely. Like it was a lot of figuring out like, how is this going to work since it's not really like a common business right now. But yeah, I can remember lots of planning sessions in the beginning being like, okay, so how do we do this part of it? But how about this part? And, it was.
I'm sure anytime anybody starts a business, you go through the whole like, wait, what do we do? What do we do about that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It was pretty crazy talking about it when we first started because, I was pretty much done with the retail side of the whole story, and just, there's just no. I mean, it just drove you nuts on the retail side of the thing. And what was nice about the distillery side, the people are so real. You know what I mean? They're looking for something to help them. They're always looking for people to help them, grow or, something that works in their process. And it was so easy to work with them. I couldn't say no on that because it was just a lot of fun. And it still is.
Right. When you're in grocery, it's very much a game about how much you do for me versus what we can give you. And I think in the distillery business, it's real. Like you're just talking to real people and working with real people, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know much from the Robinsons. They're awful quiet there.
Oh, they're gonna have questions later for you, sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
everybody can ask their
oh,
questions.
They just look like they're ready to go to sleep on me.
No. So
Kevin's not any different. He's over there just kind of like got that backdrop on there, but I know that's not his.
yeah, Kevin looks like he's in the mountains somewhere right now.
Right.
That's where I want to be.
All of us, I think, would be nicer.
Yeah.
So when you guys went into business together, you obviously have different roles. Can you tell us a little bit about what each of you do separately but together too?
Yeah. Well, me personally, I handle most of like the financial sort of accounting stuff. No, we do not so much anymore, but like towards the beginning, like I've always been the one who's like sent out the invoices and sort of like company organization, I guess you could say, making sure everything's where it should be. I dabble a little bit in design, so like getting the website up and running sort of fell to me. Let's see, Dad, you definitely handle all of the milling, like dealing with the millers that we work with, inputting orders, and just making sure, checking in with all the distillers that we do work with, making sure that their grinds are okay.
Quality.
Yeah, quality, definitely. Checking in with them about the quality of their orders. I see, Aaron, you handle a lot of
Everything.
a lot of everything, really.
Paperwork, admin, bills of lading, shipping, yeah.
It's hard to say who has what role specifically because we all do a little bit of everything, but we've all sort of fallen into our own like niches of like, this is what we handle well. And
Well, the one that really gets kind of complicated at this point was because we're we're evolving as a process, is that each state seems to have their own industry involved as far as like I've got to have grain from my state. I'm running into that more and more. Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Michigan, whatever else. So now we have an operation in Southern Illinois, which is Johnsonville.
Mm-hmm.
One in Indiana, which is LaPorte, Indiana. We know that we work out of. We also work out of Montezuma, Georgia, and we also work out of
Lakeland. It's Florida.
Gainesville
Okay.
area. We also work out of those. So we actually work out of 4 locations, depending on which customer wants what. So, it's all about the transportation part of this whole thing, which ends up to be on me a lot of times. But, that's nothing unusual because that's what I dealt with in my, my previous part in retail is how do we make the retail, you got to deliver the product at a decent, at a cost-effective number that they want. So but basically we're working out of 4 locations right now, and there's 2 other ones in the process right now. So, it's like we're going to be, dealing with, multiple people, but, we have to visit the facilities, make sure they understand what quality we want, set up the shipping arrangements and get everything in line to, deliver the material that they want. So, and if there's any changes, you have to work with the supplier to make it work. So, there's a lot of work involved here, but it's also not just working with the supplier, but it's also working with the distiller, making sure he gets what he wants. So there's a lot of processes involved here, which it's all about the dollars that they want this product to be delivered into their product, into their facilities with. And that's where it drives me crazy sometimes, but at the same time, it's what we have to do to make it work and to give them a quality product.
But you love it.
Yeah. I've got white hair for one reason.
So your locations and everything you do like that makes you guys very unique. What else makes you unique compared to any other mills that somebody could go through?
Well, I think one of the processes that we deal with is the personal side of the issue is they usually if they call somebody, they don't get an answer from anybody, and I'm calling them on a regular basis saying, hey, you got this order, 3 days ago? Is it what you wanted? Is there any freight damage? Got to make sure that's nothing that's wrong there. You got to make sure that, every batch is okay. Is it coming out the same? Are you, when you make the first mix, is it coming out the same? The second mix, the third mix, the fourth mix, whatever you're making, is still coming out the same? But at the same time, is it coming to the point where, the price works out to where you're wanting it to come out? So sometimes, it's one and done, but it is what it is. But, if you have somebody local that's selling it to them for next to nothing, I can't help that situation.
Right.
But if you're wanting quality day in and day out, that's what I'm trying to deliver to them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I know you're big into consultation. That's how you learn exactly what they want. So what sort of questions do you need to ask to figure out? So if I'm a distiller and I come to you, and because I think for just the casual bourbon fan, and that's what this group is, we may be really into this stuff, but we don't know your business. We don't know how any of that works. So what type of conversations do you need to have with a distiller to find out exactly what they're looking for so you can meet their needs?
I had to laugh about that. I had a comment page that I put together before you got together, and I was just putting some of the notes together that I'd had over the period of time, just in the last 2 weeks. It was amazing. Is that, there's a difference in the difference between pot stills and the column issues. Is that the pot stills and the columns are, you're either one or the other with those people. And it's all about the plates and the screens, that they use. And the columns is all about the plates. The pot still is all about the screens in the bottom, and make sure that stuff don't, they can recirculate and get everything to work without plugging up things. But it is quite different to listen to the different people on what they want. And I had one today, it really threw me out, is that, they really wanted something that was just basically cracked once, the corn. They just broke just once before they used it, because their screen on the bottom would plug up if they had anything else. And it's like, everybody has something different, don't get me wrong. But it just amazes me is how many different people have different ways to make flavors and, what they want. So you have to be kind of rounded on understanding what they want. It's just really, really crazy on how everybody makes something.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand, what this customer wants, you send them the samples and you either make it or you can't. But there's just so many different people that do so many different things in the industry.
That's actually
Little
refreshing
guys
to hear.
are so crazy on, having something original.
Right.
And I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't
You
know.
got to live with it then.
Yeah. In the industry.
Right. Yeah. The artistry, what you got to love about this business, though, there's still artistry there. Despite all the machinery, all the equipment, all the computers, there's still artistry there. So conversations like you're having, like we only want that corn cracked one time, that tells you, that goes to show you that someone is adding their take to this, and there is artistry there, even down to the grains.
Oh, yes. And the biggest thing with the grains is they understand that, they can buy it from the farmer right out of the bin, but the biggest problem is with coming out of the bin, they don't know what the moistures are. The moistures, when they make those grains in distilling, have to be consistent from blend to blend, as far as their pot still, quantities that they want. If they're not the same, they can't make the same product. And that's where we come in, is that when you buy from us, one thing you will know is that we grind our stuff fresh every time.
Mm-hmm.
And you will know that this stuff will be the same in this whole blend. Every bag that you get will be the same all the way through, that you can set your ingredients or your whatever you're adding to that the same every time. And that's one of the things that we hang our hat on. We have to. There's no way. There's no other issues involved here. Is that if you don't, you don't have anything different that's in the industry.
So when you talk to a distiller for the first time, what are they truly looking for? Are they looking for the grain size, how you're milling it? Are they looking for specific grains? Like I'm really searching for this certain type of wheat or something like that. Why are they reaching out to you guys?
The first question is usually, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Aaron. I'm just listening to what you have to say.
Well, the first question is usually, do you carry this?
Okay.
And, lately we have heard a lot more of, hey, I need Missouri grown corn. I need Florida grown corn. Mm-hmm. I need things sourced from my specific states. So that's been a new adventure for us. I mean, right. First we have to get through the dance of, one, do we have it? And two, what's the price? And if they don't run away after that,
right.
then we can get into more of the details. About, do you want this ground? Are you grinding yourself? We can do whole corn or whole, wheat berries, rye berries, whatever you need, if that's all you need. But I mean, I think we're all about taking the headache away in the supply chain, being able to deliver something potentially that they can just put into production instead of going through extra processing if they don't feel like that's their, they're probably more in love with distilling than they are with milling. So,
right.
I think Royce had it right that, when he said that basically you call us and we would take care of a lot of your headaches on the, the sourcing and follow up and making sure that you're getting what you want. But I'm sure Royce is probably busy with his girlfriend, but who knows?
It's an all new Royce.
We got to give him static on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we need to.
He's got to get some more static out of this whole thing.
Yes.
I still haven't got over that Prius thing that he's got going on.
Yeah, which he famously towed a Prius off of his parking lot. Someone decided to plug in. They abandoned their car. They plugged in and left. They broke 2 plugs too, by the way. They plugged it in a third one.
I love to hear that story, but I just got to be in face with him to see this. I just want to know where he's at on this, because I'm just laughing, just thinking, how do you handle that?
Right.
But as far as the grains issue goes with the people, it's a whole nother story of what they're receiving now, from their local supplier, which is, from their local farmer. They'll get this time, the granulation is this way and the granulation is this another way, which which I try to understand with them, or bring them to realization, saying, listen, I can give you analysis sheets of, what the corn is in these areas, or Illinois, or white corn, or rye, the rye I sell out of Canada, or I can give you those things that at least you can base your production out of some knowledge versus a guess to start with. And that's a big issue with them, because if they're throwing in all this stuff guessing, it's going to take them forever to get to where they want to be.
Right. Yeah, this is something that I've learned from my buddy Adam Stumpf, and he has like a notebook that he writes in there, and I had no idea about it.
Adam is very good about that, and
he's a genius.
Very well.
Smartest guy that I know, literally. So, but he literally will keep track of this stuff, different grinds, and he'll talk about how it changes things. It'll increase his efficiency, or it'll increase flavor depending on what he's doing. And he wants to find that perfect spot where he's as efficient as possible without losing flavor. And what's it like working with distillers on those type of things?
Well, it's great to work with Adam. I mean, he understands the process, and he understands exactly what he's getting from us, and he knows it's going to be the exact same situation every time we send him a load. And we only send him a load with one of his co-packing operations. He grows his own
for his own stuff. He does. Yes,
grinds his own stuff. He grinds his own stuff. The co-packing or the private label business that he does for somebody else, he buys from us, and he knows that when it comes in the door, he knows exactly how that's going to have to be set up, because it's the same every super sack. He sets it in place. It's ready to go. You don't have to deal with anything. He knows it. He don't have to have anybody there just testing. He knows it's what it's going to be.
Okay. So that was my take on Adam too. He's not the norm. That guy knows stuff like it's like dealing with a scientist who's into milling,
Well,
right?
him and Alan Bishop,
Yeah.
both of those guys.
Yeah. That's crazy. So yeah. We're lucky to work with both of those guys for sure.
Yep, they're very good.
Mm-hmm. McDo, are you able to jump in?
Yeah. If you guys can hear me, it's hailing here, so I put myself on mute for a little bit. But for the distillers, like Adam and those guys, like their grains are very different. What they put in gives them a different outcome. So is that the same for you guys with milling? Are you milling a rye different than you would do normal corn, or does it matter? You're just grinding it down.
I mean, rye is another animal in itself. We get a lot of our stuff out of Canada, basically all of it out of Canada, and I haven't found anything that's quite the quality of that product. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're working with some Florida distillers, and they want Florida rye, and I take samples of it and grind it, and it's like, you really going to distill this product? Because there's really nothing here to distill, because there's no center product to this whole product. It's all bran. There's really nothing left of it but some kind of protein, very little starch, and that's what everybody wants. I mean, a distiller is basically working off of, like with corn, they want to know what the lowest protein they can get and the highest starch count they can get. And it's as long as they can get consistency, they can get the yield amount that they want and the flavor profile that they want. So based on white corn or yellow corn, white corn has got a little smoother taste to it, a lot smoother taste to it than a yellow corn does. But it just depends on what people want. I mean, it's a whole nother animal of people. The distillers have to work on a profile that they really want, and that's where I think a lot of them can change some of their ideas of yellow corn versus white corn. I mean, I think that could really help some of their flavor profiles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you mill them different though? Like corn versus rye versus wheat.
Corn is basically, depending on the pot still, a lot of it, and the rye, based on the plates and the screens on the bottom of the columns or the pot still, depending on what you want. And the corn is it's all depending on the ingredients they're putting into it. So it still comes down to the grind that each person wants. And we do it. I mean, we do it for 20 different customers. We do it 20 different ways. So we know what each one wants, and we match that. What do you want to call it? Their uniform process that they want, so they can get the flavor profile they want. So what I would say, we're probably a specialty miller in that process, yes. But at the same time, there's a lot of other people that just make standard materials, like bigger mills that make the process. They say it's whole wheat, but there's so many things that are taken out of it that the distillers can't come up with. I mean, they just can't come up with the same profile of flavor and everything else. And I think they're seeing that with the different customers that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an ongoing process. It's frustrating. And I could just talk to you about different people, about different little issues that they have. But, it still comes down to pricing. I hate to say that. I mean, I hate to say it, but right. It is, they want to pay a certain price for a quality grain that's, yielding more, but they want to pay less. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's a battle, I'm sure.
It's a constant battle.
Now, I know this isn't reality because distillers are very specific. They know what they want. They're contacting you and kind of going through things. But we're not. This group isn't distillers, but we're curious about, what you perceive to be a good grain to make whiskey. So if someone would come in and say, what do you think would be something, a grain to use that's flavorful, that's gonna, really add to the whiskey that I'm making? Again, not that distillers are going to come in, they're going to tell you what they want, but we're not distillers. So tell us what you think might be some good ones that people should be using more of, because it's going to, produce something that's really a great flavor to it.
I was surprised on that question when you had that on that sheet. Was I'm surprised about the amount of people that actually access wheat into the process. I thought it was just rye or just straight corn, but you surprised the amount of people that actually put wheat and the 4 grains, even oats, to add a different flavor. But depending on the process of their either pot still or columns, of what they can manage within their process. So you kind of gotta I don't know what you want to call it, put a flavor on it of what they're looking for and what they're able to use. And that's kind of strange sometimes, because some are so straightforward, some are, well, I'll try that. And
okay.
It might work.
But if Bob, if I said something like, if I came in and said, I'm looking to do a bourbon, with the secondary grain being rye, but I want it to be not very spicy. Some bourbons are with rye are too spicy. Is that a conversation you could have, and you could be like, well, this is the rye that you need to use,
and that's every day.
Okay, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about. Yeah.
But it still comes down to, I'll send them, if they're interested in that process, I'll send them an analysis sheet on corn, and I'll send them an analysis sheet on the wheat. All right, and then I'll send them an analysis sheet on the rye. All right, maybe you want to add another process to get what you're looking for. So they'll look at the analysis sheets and kind of build a ideal what they want. And when they decide what they want, if they order, or maybe they'll come up with a different idea, or they'll delay the order and just say, well, I need to think about this a little while. So we'll just we'll make the rye, we'll make the wheat, we'll make the rye, everything, as far as let them do the percentages that they're looking for, and see what just comes out of the distillation process.
Right.
So I think they've got a rough idea. Most of the people have a rough idea what they want. But the biggest problem is that when they look at all the analysis sheets, they think, well, this could change that or this, or, there's just a lot of things that could happen there. But one of the things that I think that we offer versus a lot of other people's is we give them analysis sheets to say, here's the standard product that you're getting. And do you want to, here's how you want to manage this, or how do you want to blend this, and they've got a pretty good concept. You'd be surprised how smart a lot of the smaller ones are, and even the larger ones are. How they want to make everything work, because they look at the protein, the starch, the ash, and all the stuff that's in the analysis sheet, and make a assumption that where they're going to be at on the flavor. And one of the guys that we just started with is he got all 5 of those analysis sheets, and he just looked at those and said, wow, he says, I can really work on this whole situation.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
I just said, well, I'm glad to hear that, because I spend good money on sending those off in a good analysis, analysis lab to get those taken care of. And so, probably one of the few that actually show an analysis sheet before they actually get the product.
Yeah, that's definitely a differentiator for sure. You talked a little bit about the difference between a pot still and a column still. When you're working with grains, and I'm talking about the same type of grains, so a certain type of, are there certain type of wheats that work better with a column still versus a pot still, or is it just anything will work if you just get it to the right grind and that type of thing?
Well, the biggest thing with the pot still or the column still is basically you get it down to when you're grinding the process, you're grinding everything. And I know you and McNew have the same, pretty much the same words on the next 2 columns that you got here, but it still comes down to getting the same grind, making sure that the moisture of the product is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the, I mean, I can't explain it. Is that just something that you learn over time? Is that, you know, the feel of the product and can tell you a lot of what, you know, how it's going to perform. It just, I mean, it's just one of those things where you just understand where it's going and how it's going to, you know, how it's going to perform.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the process, it's just, I can't explain it because it's just one of those things where, you know, it's, I've been in it so long is that I just automatically know
Right.
that it's going to work. And if it's not going to work, you know, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can, there's just a lot of things that you just know that it's not going to work.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got to be, I don't know, a relief to people, I would think, that are coming in and dealing with someone like you who has been doing this, you know, over 40 years, and you know, certainly they feel comfortable with you, and you're also a guy, you're not hiding from anybody. It's not uncommon for me to talk to an Adam Stump and then talk to Royce Neely and be like, hey, I talked to Bob Goldstein today, and both of them are like, yeah, well, I talked to him too. You were working that phone constantly. You're or I'll see out on LinkedIn or email. You're not, you remain in constant communication with everybody in your network.
Well, I have to be because you know, people are asking questions, you know, and there's a lot of people with like the hand sanitizer looking at GNS, you know, GNS material. Is there anybody available? Is there any other stuff available? I mean, I'm calling around, knowing people, different people, and you know, there is stuff available. If there's stuff available, I'll pass it on to these people. And this is just general information that they need to know. And if they're willing to do it, or, you know, give them the information. I mean, I can't do anything after that. Once I give them the information, there's nothing I can do.
Right. Yeah. Well,
But don't let him undersell it. He's got all the scuttlebutt. Like if somebody's
I know.
selling it, he's like, oh, this guy needs this equipment. I'm going to go call this guy.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Building relationships is a strength for you, Bob. I know this.
That one over there on the right. She's it's not all the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that, you know, the home distilling thing hasn't been a big focus for you at this point, but you're kind of getting into that. So tell us a little bit about, you know, what you're going to be offering and how people get. I know we have at least one home distiller on the call today. I won't say who it is, but we got one. That person may talk about that later. We'll see. Yeah. So if they want to get helped out, can they work with a company like yours?
That's Aaron and Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you handle this one.
All right. Well, we just started making our grains, at least a few of our grinds and consistencies available. It's another sponsor of the podcast, Russell with moonshinestillpro.com.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we just got our first order. So this is very exciting. I wrote all the descriptions and I was doing all of this research about the grains and what might be important for people to know before they, you know, if they're buying their still, they might as well have at least some kind of supply available.
Hey, I was like your dad. I connected people who needed to work together.
Yeah.
I used some of Bob's teachings there. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. That's scary.
I'm your protege now.
Hey, look at behind me here. This is what I do right there.
There you go. Yeah. Looks like the Marlboro Man or something. I mean, that's cool.
Oh, I don't know.
Back when the Marlboro Man was cool.
Back when he was cool. Yeah.
It's not cool these days. But back in the day, the Marlboro Man was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting into that a little bit, but you know, does this open up, you know, home distillers to use things like heirloom grains and things like that, things that they see their favorite craft distilleries use, and even some of the big guys are, you know, and again, I know you're early on this, but do you see you know, in the future, this being something where I want to make this stuff at home and I want to use a Bloody Red Butcher corn, you know, just like some of my favorite, you know, small distillers are they going to be able to have access to that type of grain as well?
I've definitely started seeing that out in the space. That's not something that we currently supply to our bigger distillery customers. But certainly if we,
just like an example, other heirlooms,
whatever. If we start to get some requests for it, that we can source it at volume, that it makes sense. Cause you know, just sourcing a little bit for somebody to buy 5 or 10 pounds doesn't make sense. We need to have somebody working with us who's going to need a pallet or two a month or something, you know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
just for business sense. But then, of course, anything that we bring online, like we didn't used to offer oats until we got a customer who was specifically looking for a steady supply of oats. And now our oats are available even on Moonshine Still Pro as an
Okay.
example.
Cool. Yeah, that's
So
really
as we bring more things online, we can certainly start offering them in smaller pieces. I think we're just doing 5 pounds at
Yeah.
Moonshine Still Pro right now. We've talked about doing the 50 pounders as well if somebody does have more production
capacity. Yeah.
that they're working on, and that's what we generally sell in anyway. If somebody needs smaller bags, if they don't have the ability to use a super sack and they don't have an auger and everything.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really excited about going with the home distillers because I feel like we occupy this really cool niche of the people who are on the way leveling up. So they're kind of small, they're kind of doing a little bit of everything. They need smaller amounts. Like we'll ship anything. We'll ship a 50 pounder. We'll ship 200 pounds on a pallet up to a truckload if that's what people need. So yeah, I like being positioned there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the next thing. I mean, I got the rick house in the backyard. I need to start some production now. So yeah, that's the
That's
next
going to be
thing.
empty before long, if what I understand, and you're going to get in for a free refill.
Hey, I get a free refill, so yeah, of course I'm going to empty that thing. Heck yeah, I'd be dumb not to. All right, well,
He tells us we're not all invited. You ever notice that?
Nobody's invited
we have
right
to
now.
social distance. We have to social distance. So yes, otherwise I'd have everyone over. So we'll open it for questions, just like we used to do on Skype. Let's go ahead. If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind texting me, that allows us just to open up one phone line at a time. If you don't have my number, it's 314-409-5216. Shoot me a text. You just have to say your name. You don't have to shoot your question because we'll have you ask a question yourself. So that just kind of establishes an order to ask the questions in. So if you've got a question, just shoot that over. So yeah, really interesting stuff today. McNew, did you learn some things here?
I did. I had to unmute myself again. I learned a lot. So like Bob and Carrie and Aaron, they're always super interesting, and there's more to grains than you ever realize there is.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
It is. It's you
It's
think of it as a
whole
commodity, but
story.
it's not. There's so much more to it. If you
There's
know what
so
you're
much.
doing.
There's so much
Yeah.
detail in it that I would, as a consumer, would never even think about. It's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah. Kevin, you're up first. If you want to open up your phone line, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Two questions real quick. First, Aaron, what are you drinking? You had a pretty good cork pop there accidentally. So what are you drinking there tonight? Hear me?
Are you with us?
Aaron.
What was that a question for me? Sorry, my
Yes.
Yeah, I said, I asked what you were drinking tonight. You had a pretty good cork pop, and I was asking what you were
and it
drinking.
wasn't even a contest.
I know. Wins.
You saw my eyes. Yeah, I've got a nice Woodford Reserve tonight. I'm pretty excited about.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
That's good to
Now,
know.
what are some of the things that you're seeing other than distillers looking for grains sourced in their state? Is there any other trends that you're seeing as far as a particular type of grain that is something that you may not have expected before?
We've had a few requests for some oddballs. Like somebody requested some sorghum a little while back,
Okay.
but they didn't seem super committed to it. Like we tried to ask, oh, what kind of volume are you expecting? Because that'll help us tell you how much it'll be and where we can get it from. I don't remember anything. The sorghum sticks in my head. Can you think of anything else that you've had a request for, Carrie or Dad?
The biggest thing that I keep getting requests for is quality rye.
Mm-hmm.
And we
rye's growing. So
we send those consistently to those people, and when they get the sample, I just can't believe that there's that quality of rye out there. So, but it's like it's a cost factor. Coming out of Canada, it's not going to be inexpensive, but at the same time, if you want the yield factor, that's what it comes down to. So it's a flavor, and it has a definitely flavor profile because where it's coming out of is that area where Conagra actually gets their product for pumpernickel rye. So that's where we get our products from. It's that triangle out of Canada that pumpernickel rye comes up.
Pumpernickel rye. Okay. Very good. Well, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it, man. Next up is Winston. Winston, you are up, my friend.
So I had two different questions. One kind of dovetails into Kevin's question. I'm seeing more and more people using like specific types of malt that aren't your normal two-row barley, or they're doing extra processes to their malt, like doing a caramel malt or a chocolate malt. Are you guys seeing any of that come through at quantity, or is it more just one-offs that people are doing?
It's pretty much a one-off situation. It's just very small quantities, and they want like 200 or 300 pounds of this or 200 or 300 pounds of that, and I mean, in my situation, I can't afford to send 200 or 300 pounds. I mean, I can't even buy it at 200 or 300 pounds at an efficient cost and get it to them. It just doesn't make sense. So
I think in general, those specialty malts come through a little better for people who are using them to brew beer rather than
the specialty malts are definitely the beers.
Yeah, a lot of people are using them for beer. I'm just starting to see them pop into whiskey where they're not caring as much about efficiency and they're more caring about the flavor that it brings.
Oh, for sure.
I'm finding that with the breweries that are converting to distilleries, both.
So they're carrying it over themselves. Yeah,
Brew-stilleries.
They're carrying it over, and but it's still not really big volume or anything. But at the same time, it's a cost factor for them, and I understand that.
Okay. And the other question is, I'm the one that Steve mentioned who wants to go look at that Moonshine Pro site now.
Yep. Yeah. He's our distiller in the group. Yeah.
Do you mill that grain, or is it just raw grain that we bring home and mill ordering through, or how does that work?
It's already milled. You're ready to go.
It's the same product that we send to our distillery customers.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm probably going to be ordering 50 pounds of this or that soon.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, just let me know where you're doing it at. I'll be there to help you drink it.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Right here in
St. Louis here. Yeah.
We got nice laws. I can actually do it at home.
Yeah.
Which is cool. All right. The Robinsons are up next. Let's talk to the Robinsons.
They're so quiet.
They're quiet. The Robinsons are quiet. They're always quiet, even when you're hanging out with them. They just observe because we're all a mess. Yeah,
we observe.
They look like they're ready to ask them really major questions.
They're normal.
Actually,
the rest of the group is not normal. We're all a bunch of degenerates, but the Robinsons, they're sweet people. They're nice.
Kevin actually stole my question. I was going to ask what was the most unusual request that you had, but since you already answered that, and I know that it sounds like you've had to get to know quite a bit about distilling yourself. What is a problem that you've been able to help a distiller with knowing their business?
Well, the biggest, probably our biggest customer is in Michigan, and I think it's interesting to understand what he actually needed in his pot still and everything else, and we actually made him increase his brick count about, I don't know, maybe 5%, but it's all about the grind, making the grind work to what his still works. So, and I think Steve has had a little bit of my vinegary.
Yeah, that bottle's gone now.
Whoa!
Hey, what are you gonna do? I'm home all day, Bob. What are you gonna do?
He must have really liked that stuff. But that Pingree, that was very good stuff. I mean, Valentine's been a very good customer as far as making a product exactly the way he needs it to make the product that he wants, and the flavor profile is very very, very fruitful to me to see that it actually works, to get it where he wants to be, how he wants to be on the whole situation.
I think the most dramatic thing that we see sometimes as well, like sometimes we'll come in with somebody who's buying grain from a barn down the road, and they're just, really? I'm not sure what goes into distilling education, but I'm pretty sure it's not like grain quality in buying.
Right.
for what we've seen so far, because people are just putting whatever they get from the load into their fermenting pot, and there's chaff, there's cobs, there's there's dust and dirt and things that aren't going to make any sugar for you. So I think like the most dramatic effects we see are because we clean our grain and then grind it fresh and send it out, is they're like, I can't believe these numbers that I'm getting. Everyone wants to hear great feedback like that. It just feels so good. Like when we can help somebody get to where they need to be with that.
It's a nice, clean grain. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
The biggest thing that always amazes me is that, I mean, when they call and just say, I don't think those numbers are right. The first two runs, I said, this can't be right. And the more they run it, they look and think, oh, maybe this is closer to what it needs to be. And then as they go down the process, and just said, I just can't believe what I've been buying versus what I need to get to the flavor that they want, and the brick count. I guess that's what they call it in the whole situation, the brick count or the yield that they're looking for. And they just look and just shake their head the first 2 or 3 blends. It's like, what is going on here? So, and after they get that, down into a synchronization, they synchronize that into the situation, and then they turn around and they start really, peeling it down to where they want it to be, and they just can't believe the difference. They just look and think, why have I been doing this?
Yeah. All right. I don't have any other questions in the queue. If anybody's got one, they can send it real quick. Again, my number 314-409-5216. As we start to wrap this up, if you guys, I'm sure people want to follow the journey. They want to see what you guys got going on. Anything you want to share, website, social media, anything like that?
Sure. Our website is goldstonemill.com, and then you can also find our usernames on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as well as the same, Goldstone Mill.
Perfect. And if you're looking to get into some home distilling, check out Moonshine Still Pro.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we want the Neil Robinsons to be a little more active here.
Look alive, people.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, guys. That was great.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good, guys.
Really great
Good night.
stuff. Good night.